You studied English for years, maybe 3 years, maybe 5, maybe more. You watched the videos, you did the apps, you paid for the course, you learned the grammar, you memorized the vocabulary. And when someone asks you something simple, something you absolutely know the answer to, your mouth just stops. Not slow English, not broken English, nothing. Silence. And then that feeling, that specific, awful feeling, somewhere between embarrassment and confusion, because you know, and yet it doesn't come out. Think about that for a moment. You understand podcasts. You follow American TV shows without subtitles. You read emails in English and respond without panic. Your brain is working. Your brain gets it. But the moment someone looks at you and expects words, real, spoken, live words, something shuts down. If this has happened to you, I want you to hear something important. This is not a sign that your English is bad. This is not a sign that you are not smart, not dedicated, not capable. It means one thing and one thing only. You have been training the wrong skill. Your brain learned to understand English. Nobody ever trained your mouth to produce it. And today, we are going to change that. We are going to look at exactly why this disconnect happens, how it works, and, most importantly, what you can do about it starting today. Not next month, not when you find a speaking partner. Today, stay with me, because this one is going to be different. Let me ask you something honest, and I want you to actually think about the answer. How much of your English study time have you spent reading, listening, or watching? And how much have you spent actually speaking, out loud, with your real voice, in real time? For most people, the answer is something like 90% consuming, 10% producing, maybe even less than 10. And that gap, that enormous invisible gap, is the reason your mouth doesn't obey your brain. Here is the thing. Understanding a language and speaking a language are not the same skill. They are not even close to the same skill. They use different mental processes, different muscle movements, different timing, different speeds. And here is what most traditional English programs, especially the ones built around reading and grammar, never tell you clearly. You can develop one skill completely without developing the other. Think about this. Imagine someone who reads every book ever written about swimming. They know the theory of every stroke. They understand buoyancy, breathing technique, arm position, kick rhythm. They could pass a written test about swimming with a perfect score. Now put them in a pool. What happens? They sink. Because reading about swimming is not swimming. And understanding English is not speaking English. Or think about it this way. Imagine someone who has watched hundreds of hours of professional basketball. They know the plays. They understand the strategy. They can analyze the game better than most coaches. Now put them on the court in a real game, with real defenders, real pressure, real time. What happens? Their body doesn't know what to do. Because watching basketball is not playing basketball. This is exactly what happens when you try to speak English after years of studying English. Your brain knows. Your mouth doesn't. And the reason is not a lack of knowledge. The reason is a lack of training. A specific kind of training that most methods never give you. Here is the technical name for what is missing, and I will say it in plain terms. Your mouth has not built the habit of producing English under pressure. When you are relaxed, reading silently, the bar is low. Your brain can take its time. But when someone is looking at you, waiting for an answer, that bar shoots up instantly. Your brain has to find the words, organize the grammar, move your mouth, control your voice, monitor how you sound, all at the same time, all in a fraction of a second. If you have never trained for that specific moment, you will freeze. Every single time, pause and let that land. The problem is not your vocabulary. The problem is not your grammar. The problem is that nobody ever trained you for the moment of production. They trained you to understand. They left the speaking part to chance. And that, right there, is what we are going to fix today. Let me tell you about a specific moment I still think about. I was at a coffee shop in Austin, Texas, one of those busy Saturday mornings, the kind where there is a line, and everyone seems like they know exactly what they want and exactly where they are going. I had been studying English seriously for a while at that point, I was proud of where I was. I felt ready. The barista looked at me and asked something. A simple question. Something about my order. About a preference. About a size. I honestly could not tell you exactly what she said because in that moment my brain just locked. The noise of the place, the speed of her voice, the fact that there were people behind me. It all collapsed into this wall of pressure. I knew English. I had studied English. But in that moment, in that specific, real, uncontrolled moment, I could not produce a single sentence. I said something. I do not even remember what. She nodded, gave me something, and moved on. I walked to a corner table and sat there with this quiet, specific humiliation that I think anyone who has ever learned a second language knows deeply. It was not about that barista. It was not about that coffee shop. It was about the gap between what I knew and what I could produce when it mattered. And I realized something sitting there, something that changed how I approached everything from that point on. I had been training passively. I had been consuming English, listening, reading, watching. But I had almost never forced myself to produce English in an uncomfortable, unscripted, real-time situation. I'd been preparing in the safest possible way for the most unpredictable possible skill. No athlete trains for competition by only watching competition. They train in conditions that simulate the real thing, the pressure, the speed, the discomfort. And I had never done that with speaking. So I changed one thing, just one thing. I started talking, out loud, alone at first, in my apartment, in my car, in the shower, not to practice being perfect, to practice being fast, to train my mouth to move before my brain had time to overthink. It was uncomfortable. Actually, uncomfortable is not even the right word. It was exposing. Because when you speak out loud alone, you hear yourself. And hearing yourself is honest in a way that writing or thinking never is. But something started shifting, slowly. Not dramatically, just differently. The gap got smaller. The freeze became hesitation. The hesitation became rhythm. And that is what I want to give you today. A way to train for the real moment, before the real moment arrives. The mouth first protocol. Before I show you this, I want you to understand something important. This is not about practicing more. It is about practicing differently. The 3 steps I am going to share with you work because they target the exact skill your brain is missing. Real-time, spontaneous, out-loud English production. Not comprehension, production. Here is the protocol. 3 steps, 3 daily practices. Each one builds on the last. Step 1. Speak before you think. The 1-minute dump. Here is what this is. Every day you set a timer for 60 seconds, and you speak English out loud about anything. Your morning, what you had for breakfast, what you are thinking about, what you are worried about, what you noticed on the drive to work. Anything. Here is the rule. You cannot stop. You cannot pause for more than 2 seconds. If you lose a word, you replace it with another word, a simpler one, a different route to the same idea. You keep moving. Why does this work? Because the number 1 enemy of spoken fluency is not ignorance. It is overthinking. Your brain, when it has time, tries to be perfect. It searches for the ideal word, the correct grammar, the most precise sentence. And while it is searching, your mouth is closed. The 1-minute dump trains your brain to release the grip of perfectionism and prioritize movement over accuracy. Think of it as dribbling a basketball without looking at the ball. At first, it feels impossible. Then it becomes automatic. That automaticity, that fluency of movement, is exactly what you are building here. How to do it in practice. Tomorrow morning, before you open any app, before you check any message, set a 60-second timer on your phone and speak about your day, about how you slept, about what is in front of you right now. Say it out loud in English. Do not write it. Do not think it. Say it. For example, okay, it is Monday morning. I did not sleep very well last night. I have a meeting at 9, and I'm a little nervous about it. The weather looks cold today. I need to remember to call my sister later. That is it. That is the whole practice. 60 seconds, every morning. Simple and non-negotiable. Step 2. Copy the rhythm, not just the words. The shadow loop. Here is what this is. You choose a short audio clip, 30 to 60 seconds maximum, from a native English speaker. An American podcast, a YouTube video, a scene from a TV show. You listen once, then you play it again, and this time you speak along with it, overlapping the speaker's voice with your own. You are not repeating after them. You are speaking with them at the same time, matching their rhythm, their speed, their music. Why does this work? Because English has a rhythm that is completely different from Portuguese, or from most Romance languages. The stress patterns, the contractions, the way words blend into each other, these are not things you can learn by reading. You have to feel them in your mouth. Shadowing is the fastest way to teach your mouth what English actually sounds like from the inside. Many language acquisition specialists observe that learners who practice rhythm and prosody, the music of the language, develop spoken fluency significantly faster than those who focus only on vocabulary and grammar. You do not have to understand the mechanism. You just have to feel the difference when you try it. How to do it in practice. Pick a YouTube video you already enjoy in English, something with clear audio, a TED Talk, a podcast clip, a short interview. Find a 30-second section. Play it. Then play it again and speak along with the audio, out loud, matching the speed as closely as you can. Do this 3 to 5 times, every day. For example, if you choose a clip where the speaker says, "The problem isn't what you know, it's how fast you can access what you know under pressure," you say it with them. Same speed, same rhythm, same melody. You are not imitating the content. You are training the delivery. Step 3. Teach it back. The teach back loop now. This is the one that changes everything. At the end of each day, you take one thing you learned, experienced, or thought about, and you explain it in English, out loud, as if you were teaching it to someone who does not know it yet. Why does this work? Because teaching forces production at the highest level. When you explain something, you cannot hide behind vague understanding. You have to find the words. You have to organize the ideas. You have to commit to a sentence and finish it. And you have to do it in real time, with no script. This is exactly the cognitive demand of a real conversation. The only difference is that you are doing it alone, without the social pressure, which means you can fail safely. And failing safely, repeatedly, is how you build the skill that does not fail publicly. Many learners who develop strong spoken English report that the turning point was not a class or a course. It was the moment they started forcing themselves to speak, explain, and produce in real time. The teach-back loop creates that turning point deliberately, every single day. How to do it in practice. At the end of your day, pick one topic. It can be something small, a movie you watched, a conversation you had, a decision you made, something you read, and explain it in English, out loud, for 2 to 3 minutes. No notes, no preparation. Just you, your voice, and the English you already have. For example, "Okay, today at work I had a problem with a project deadline. The client changed the requirements at the last minute, and I had to figure out how to adjust the timeline without losing the whole week." That is it. Real words, real thoughts, real English, produced by you in real time. 3 steps, 1-minute dump in the morning, shadow loop during the day, teach-back loop at night. This is the mouth-first protocol. And if you follow it consistently, what you will notice, not overnight, but over time, is that the gap between your brain and your mouth starts to close. Now let me show you how this actually fits into a real day. Because I know you are busy. I know you have a job, or a family, or a commute, or all 3. I am not going to ask you to find an extra 2 hours. I am going to ask you to find about 25 minutes in the places where time already exists. Imagine it is 7 a.m. Your alarm goes off. Before you reach for your phone, before Instagram, before email, before the news, you set a 60-second timer and you talk in English about the morning, about what you have to do today, about how you feel, about the weather outside your window. 1 minute, out loud. That is your morning practice. Why that moment? Because your brain in the morning is in production mode. It has not yet been flooded with passive content. It is primed to create, not consume. 60 seconds of spoken English at 7 a.m. does more for your fluency than 30 minutes of listening to a podcast while you scroll. This is what habit stacking looks like. You already wake up every morning. You already reach for your phone. You just insert 60 seconds of speaking before that reach happens. The habit already exists. You are just adding one thing to it. Now, during the day, you have dead time. Everybody does. The drive to work, the train, the line at a coffee shop somewhere in your city, the 5 minutes between meetings. That is when you do your shadow loop. You pull up a 30-second audio clip you prepared the night before. You listen once. You shadow it 3 times. You move on. You do not need silence. You do not need a desk. You do not need a notebook. You just need your voice and your earbuds. The commute you already take becomes English training. And at night, after dinner, after the kids are in bed or after the workday has fully closed, you sit for 15 to 20 minutes. First, 10 minutes of teach-back loop. You explain something from your day in English, out loud, without stopping. Then 5 minutes of shadow loop with a new clip. Then 2 minutes of quiet review. What felt easier today than it did last week? What word did you almost find but didn't? What sentence surprised you by coming out right? That 2-minute review is not optional. It is where your brain consolidates the progress you made. It is the difference between practice that disappears and practice that sticks. There will be days when you want to skip this. Maybe most days, at the beginning. That is normal. That is not weakness. That is what every person who has ever built a skill feels in the first few weeks. The resistance is not a sign to stop. It is a sign that the practice is real. On those days, do just one thing, just the 60-second morning dump. That's it. Keep the chain alive. Because showing up imperfectly every day is infinitely more powerful than showing up perfectly sometimes. 25 minutes, morning, day, night, every single day. That is the whole system. I want to talk about something that nobody talks about enough. And it is the thing that kills more English progress than any grammar mistake, any vocabulary gap, any accent ever could. It is the fear of sounding stupid. Not the fear of being wrong, not the fear of making mistakes. The very specific, very human fear of opening your mouth and having someone, a native speaker, a colleague, a stranger at a counter in a store in America, hear you struggle and think less of you. If you have felt that fear, you are not alone. I want you to really hear that. You are not strange for feeling it. You are not oversensitive. You are not weak. You are human. And that fear is one of the most natural responses a brain can have when it is doing something new, something vulnerable, something exposed. But here is what I need you to understand. That fear is not protecting you. It is costing you. Every time you choose silence over imperfect speech, your brain learns one lesson. Speaking English in public is dangerous. And the more your brain believes that, the tighter the freeze gets. The more you avoid, the harder it becomes to start. Pause on that for a second. Now think about going to the gym. Imagine someone who goes to the gym for the first time. They are sore. Nothing feels natural. The weights feel heavy. The movements feel awkward. They look at the people around them and feel like they do not belong there. Do the muscles stop growing because of that feeling? No, the muscles grow precisely because of the discomfort. The soreness is the signal. Your spoken English works exactly the same way. The awkwardness you feel when you speak is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of growth happening. Your mouth is learning. Your brain is reorganizing. The discomfort is the training. And here is the reframe I want to leave you with. Most people measure their English progress by comparing themselves to native speakers, to fluent colleagues, to people who have been speaking this language since childhood. That comparison will crush you. Every time. Because it is not a fair measure of anything. The only comparison that matters is this one. Are you a little better today than you were yesterday? Not better than a native speaker. Not better than your colleague. Better than yourself. Yesterday's version of you. Last week's version of you. The version who froze in that coffee shop, in that meeting, in that airport, Progress in language is invisible for a long time. You practice, you practice, you practice, and nothing seems to be happening. And then one day, something comes out of your mouth that surprises you. A sentence you did not plan. A word that appeared before you looked for it. A response that was there before you needed it. Those moments are not accidents. They are the result of all the days when nothing seemed to be happening. The days you spoke into the silence of your car. The days you shadowed a clip nobody heard. The days the progress was underground, building, waiting. Those quiet days are the most important days of all. Keep going on those days, especially on those days. So right now, after this episode ends, I want you to do one small thing. Not tomorrow, not this weekend, not when you feel ready. Today, in the next 5 minutes. I want you to imagine yourself at a coffee shop somewhere in the United States. Maybe New York, maybe Chicago, maybe a small town in Texas. The barista looks at you and says, "What can I get for you today?" And I want you to answer, out loud, with your real voice. Right now, wherever you are. Say this, "I'd like a medium coffee, please, just black." "Thank you so much." Say it slowly. Say it clearly. Say it loud enough that you can hear yourself. Not in your head, with your actual voice, in the actual air around you. Because every time you speak English out loud, even alone, even imperfect, even quietly, you are sending your brain one message. This voice belongs to me too. This language is mine too. I am allowed to speak this. That is not a small thing. That is everything. Thank you for being here today. What you are doing, choosing to grow, choosing to show up, choosing to keep going when it is uncomfortable, that takes real courage. And I mean that sincerely. Keep going. Your progress is real, even when you cannot see it yet. And I will see you in the next episode. You said, "I want the script in a continuous format."